Hi, I'm Cheryl Kagan, very proud to be the senator for Gaithersburg and Rockville, and very proud to be the senator for part of the Red Line. I'm with you on this snowy, icky day to have a kibitz with the general manager of Metro, Randy Clarke. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat.
Hey, thanks for having me today, Senator. Good seeing you.
Absolutely. You too. We have so much to cover because Metro is kind of the backbone of our region, our economy, and our transit system, obviously. You have been doing transportation for 23 years, plus or minus now, and have been the general manager and CEO of the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority, also known as WMATA, our metro system, since July of 2022. You have worked in Massachusetts, Texas at the national level. You've done public, private, and all that. And now you're here, and we are lucky. So we're going to
You make
learn
it
all
sound like
about
I can't keep a job, Senator.
that. So let's start with a year and a half ago, you came to Metro. What did you inherit? What was the good, the bad, and the ugly? Where did you start?
Sure. Well, great question. So, and you are right. Metro is the backbone of the whole region. Today is a great example. Snow day. Roads people can't get around, but guess what? We ran great service all day today. And if you're whether you're a small business or you got to get to a hospital, we're there to get people around. And again, when the region really needs Metro is when Metro really steps up, and I think it brings that extra value. So what I inherited is the legacy of a lot of people in this region have worked tirelessly for decades to build one of the greatest transit systems in the world,
Yes.
and a system that we should all really be proud of, but also be honest that should always continue to strive to improve. And Metro's obviously had a history of some ups and downs. A lot of that actually is tied to the complication around Metro. We're the only tri-state plus federal government federal compact, so clearly a funding governance model that is not normal, I think is the kind way of saying it. It also has had some history that funding and unique kind of political aspect has
Yep.
caused some investment and decision making challenges over time. Even when people are trying to do the right thing, it leads to cascading things, short versus long duration.
Yes.
But I inherited a workforce of a little over 12,000 of our community members. Actually, a significant amount live in Maryland, the way it's set up.
Yep.
Great people that I believe come in and try to serve their community every day. We are better than a lot better than our worst cynic and critic would think, but we
We are so going to
also
get to all of that.
yeah, but we also are I think really making big strides. So I'm really just proud and I'm humbled to have the opportunity to be part of this amazing organization and serve the community.
So let's talk about the advances that you have already made. 16% improvement in the customer satisfaction survey just in the past year. That's pretty extraordinary.
Yeah,
What
it's
do you think? What do
actually
you think has been the difference?
kind of pinch myself to be honest. And I, it's not public yet. So the time your podcast will go out, or video cast will go out, this will be public. But we actually went higher in the last quarter. So
Look at
we had
you.
the highest number in the history of Metro at 88% customer
Amazing.
satisfaction on rail, 77% on bus. Bus is a little different because how people sit in traffic impacts their, which is not much we can control, quite frankly.
Sure.
The number one factors that people really care about are uh, frequent, safe, reliable transit, right? We all think that everyone cares about all these other bells and whistles.
Right.
They are all secondary to, is the train going to show up? How long between trains? And is it safe? And do I feel safe on board? And do I get good customer service? So we're running great frequency. Our vehicle reliability is the highest it's been, I think someone told me almost 10 years. Our safety, we met or beat every safety metric last year, and our really deep focus on customer satisfaction and service. So we're engaging customers, I think, much more in a almost like a. I tell people, I want you to feel like you're walking into an Apple store and get that kind of feel, you know.
That's a bit of a stretch, but
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, but the idea that our job is to interact with people
Yes.
and say, what do you need? How do we help your day better than just
Love
what
it.
do you want?
Love it. So let's talk about safety. There have been crashes, there have been breakdowns. Obviously, there have been some challenges, and there are two aspects of safety. There's the metro safety part. And then there's the ridership, as you just referenced, a rider feeling safe and feeling comfortable taking the metro. So let's start with, on this snow day, let's start with the extra challenges that weather causes for you all.
It definitely does. On the bus side, even more so on a snowy day, obviously.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of work to make sure that there are not safety and reliability challenges on the rail side as well, right? So that's why our state of good repair capital program is so important. And quite frankly, when 16, 17, it all kind of hit ahead there by decades of not investing.
Right.
Fires, cracked rail, platforms falling apart. Out in places, say Rockville, towards that area, canopies crumbling.
Mm-hmm.
We've really rebuilt a lot of the original system, and that's why we're so safe and reliable. So one thing I encourage people to look at is, again, I never want to pretend that we're perfect on safety. There's no such thing. We're always going to continue to evolve. But there's a database in our industry called the National Transit Database, and we are better or at the measure on safety compared to every peer in the country. Now, we're in the bubble in DC, so it sometimes appears different, but we are a very, very safe system. On the
Yes.
public safety side, I think is where we still got strides to do. Excuse me. And I don't know how much, there's part of that that's Metro, which
Yes.
is we have our police department, we're out patrolling, we've got a lot of video, we've actually had a crisis intervention specialist to interact with people maybe having mental illness and things. But there's a general societal kind of post-COVID like
Mm-hmm.
impatience and anger and instability that hopefully will dissipate in 2024. I'm going to be glass half full kind of person, and then we can kind of go back to treating each other a little more with respect and dignity, and that will make everything feel better, not just in Metro. Our whole community will feel safer.
Totally agree with that. Mental health has been something you've also started focusing on. Talk about that.
Yeah, so I started this program in Austin. We were the first agency in the country, and I hired social workers, crisis intervention specialists, which doesn't sound logical for a transit agency. And quite frankly, I wish society we didn't have to be involved in that level, but we have to. We on busy days we're moving hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people, and there's members of our community that have special circumstances that kind of interact with our system. So our job is to try to connect them with social services, whether it's Montgomery County, DC, Prince George's, Virginia, it doesn't matter.
Right.
And if you will, get them out of the system so they can get the services. Because we don't build housing, we're not a jobs place, we don't do chemical, NA, those kinds of things. But we have so many contacts with people. So that's what we're trying to do. And the other part of that is transit also has sometimes the unfortunate where people might want to die by suicide or have those types of thoughts. And we have a lot of signs and a lot of training to try to make it so we can prevent people doing that. And we've had many situations where we've officers or staff that have saved someone's life and kind of got them the help they need.
Amazing. Speaking of training, are the employees trained in Narcan? Is it available in the naloxone if someone might be having an overdose on a train or on a platform?
So all of our police department has Narcan, and actually we did it through a nonprofit for the training and the supply, which is really great. We sadly we do use Narcan a fair amount, just like every police department in the country. I mean, we have a national crisis that I think we need a much bigger light on this national crisis.
Yes.
And then we're looking at other positions a few others that we think might be well positioned to have that tool as well.
Good. Let's talk about maintenance, whether it's Rockville or recently Foggy Bottom. You are now investing in maintenance. There's an inconvenience for riders. Why don't you talk about that balance and how you figure out scheduling and prioritizing?
Yeah, it's probably the thing I push the team most internally, because when I was at the MBTA, I actually ran engineering and maintenance. So I was the guy fighting to get track time to do work. And then in different roles, you're like, oh, I got to not have that outages so we can serve, do service. There is a Goldilocks we got to find. So unfortunately, we do a lot of that on weekends. Now, weekends are still a ton of customers, and we don't want to impact. So we're really trying to maximize every moment we can overnight. And then you'll see some of these weekends where we're extending them.
Yes.
It's kind of ripping the Band-Aid off. If we're willing to go in and go 2 or 3 days completely hard, much bigger inconvenience, that is a way better situation than making it last over 3 months and a bunch of single tracking that people don't like. So that's how we're trying to kind of the track access thing. But I will say, just taking a moment, is we've delivered an enormous amount of projects either on budget, under budget, or on time or ahead of time in the last year. The
Nice.
Yellow Line tunnel reconditioning was almost $400 million project, 8% under budget. The it just up towards your way. Grosvenor escalator we just opened I think yesterday, a month ahead of schedule. Red Line shut down over the holidays. We were ahead of schedule and about 400 grand under budget. So every dollar matters because you pay taxes, I pay taxes, anyone that's watching this pays taxes, and we have to make sure we are using every dollar very purposeful here at this organization.
Yes. So you just said every dollar, so let's shift to funding. You've already talked about it. The jurisdictional challenge is big, and COVID had an enormous impact on whether people were commuting and how they were commuting. Why don't you speak to those?
Yeah, no, thank you. So one, I appreciate your support of Metro and a lot of your colleagues. And that I think the word choice that people are using, I think, is really important, which is Metro is critical to success in DMV. And in your case, it's also the state of Maryland. Can't be successful without a really well-functioning transit system. So sometimes the ROI to someone that doesn't use a system is not there. But trust me, if you drive a car or if you have a small business and say electrical vehicle or delivery, you want everyone else on transit. So I mean, there's a society benefit there.
Yes.
On the funding or the budget, what really happened here was ridership went down, like every transit system in the country, and obviously ridership revenue went down because of ridership. Now that's coming back. Last year, ridership increased 30% on the rail side, and on bus, we're almost back to 100% pre-COVID. But that ridership is significant on the revenue side, and especially the longer haul trips, if you will, the Shady Groves to the downtown. If you were a federal worker, when you used to go 4 days a week, you might go once a week. But we can't maintain a system for 1 day a week. We have to be there for 7 days a week.
Right.
So that's one component. Another component was in 2020, Metro gave a credit to the jurisdictions. Very purposeful to say, hey, you have uncertainty. We got some federal relief money. You give us less money on the annual subsidy. Now that now total cumulative over 4 years is worth $690 million. So that's a big amount of money. Sure. And the third part is, like you, me, or anyone else, we had real inflation as a society. And Metro can't be immune from that. So we can't pretend that inflation existed here. So we have inflation on wages. We have inflation on parts and materials, fuel, energy, all those other things. Sure. So if you put the three together, it really kind of turned the place upside down. Now that was going to happen anyway, because in 1976, just before the system opened, a report came out and said, Metro's finances are unsustainable and needs to be resolved. Now, we haven't really ever fixed that. We've done a couple Band-Aids over 40 years. And so every year, everyone goes, it's Metro with the handout again. And I tell people, well, we're going to be back next year and the year after, unless we have a structural issue. And as a region, not three entities, as a region, we got to once and for all say, how are we making Humpty Dumpty work? And it's good for the jurisdictions, too. It's good for the state of Maryland to have predictability. It's good for Virginia. It's good for us. We all just got to bear down and try to get a long-term solve.
But just to be clear, mass transit, like the arts, like our parks, can't be sustainable on its own. Fare box recovery is not possible, or the rates would be too high. So let's just talk.
But we're not a business.
For the first time. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, sorry, Senator, because I appreciate you saying that. I say this all the time to people. We're not a business.
Right.
We should operate business-like, making every dollar, using data, using metrics, but we are like the libraries, like the fire department, like everything else. We want well-functioning community goods for a better society.
Correct. For the first time, possibly in history, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, we have a train guy, a transit guy in the White House. President Biden is very widely known for taking Amtrak every day in the Senate. How has that paid off for Metro?
Yeah, the old saying was Amtrak Joe, is the saying. And, I mean, clearly the infrastructure bill with the IIJA, to get all wonky in the DMV here, really mattered. So there's formula money that transit agencies get. That was a big deal for us, and we'd be in really rough shape without that. Then there's all these other kind of grant programs. So some of the grant programs are about new builds. Now, we're not in the process of that right now. We do have a couple things we're going to have to figure out as a region about Metro system. It's the first time in Metro's history we're not have a plan to build anything. And that we got to be thoughtful on that. But then there's targeted money on things like electric buses, as an example. So in the last year, we got a grant last year, $104 million for electric buses. We got the largest grant in the United States last year for electric buses, and our delegation and obviously the administration, we really appreciate that
Good.
grant.
Let's shift to ridership. You've referenced it before. So again, numbers are hard. Ridership versus cost. Fare jumpers, and so you have to increase your the height of the gates so that people aren't evading the fares. How are you trying to noodle through that conundrum?
Yeah, I mean, great question. So, one, I think the fare stuff, again, back to you, said, fares are never going to pay for this place,
Right.
but we should try to collect every fare. Second, we need to create programs for people that among us that are the most unfortunate and need a hand up, not a handout, but a hand up. And we created what we call Metro Lift. And it's the first time ever Metro's created a regional, not little jurisdiction, regional low-income fare program. So anyone on SNAP in the Maryland, Virginia, or DC
food stamps
automatically gets 50% fare.
Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, food stamps.
I broke the rule of acronyms.
It's okay.
Sorry. Everyone that's on that program in the 3 states can get 50% fare. And that, I think, is really leaning into being an equitable, community-centric organization. Everyone else, though, we need you to pay your fair fare.
Absolutely.
So what we did on the gates, we had obviously a lot of room for improvement on the gate design. I think that's fair to say. We made the gates much higher. We got about 25% of done, and we're basically seeing about a 70% reduction in fare evasion. Now that's going to hopefully continue to improve.
Yes.
It also helps us from a public safety point of view, because to be clear, and I want to make it clear, not everyone that commits crime in Metro or does fare evasion commits a crime, but everyone that commits a crime fare evades.
Yeah.
And so this kind of creates a safer overall system as well.
Good. So speak briefly about technology. So I have my custom smart trip with my own name on it and stuff. But
I got one with a name too, but that's an employee one. But that one's great.
But
I like
but you've got their apps now. People can pay on their smartphone. People can how easy is it for people to use Metro? And before I pause and make it be your turn, can I say how much I love the $2 weekends and free parking? It makes me use the train more often.
Yeah, so they kind of go together. So the phone is the way to go. There's no question, because no one leaves the phone, right? So you don't have to worry about anything else. So you can set up Wallet on your phone in about 10, 15 seconds, and it just ties to your credit card, and you don't have to deal with it again. We got a plan to also, we're not, probably maybe another year, where you'll be able to just take your credit card and tap it on near field technology and tap, and you just go through. Really good for visitors, especially on that one. But this is the way to go, and I think we've had 50 million taps already via phone. I think it's that number I saw. On the $2, now that's an interesting thing, because I will say in our budget proposal, we are under enormous financial challenges, and there's serious consideration of a very, very large fare increases. So the $2 on weekend, one, there's an equity aspect to that, but two, it really encourages travel via transit. So we're going to run the trains anyway. Let's get as many people on there as possible. And that's why ridership on rail, so bus ridership is back. It's actually, we average about 106, 108% pre-COVID on bus. And most weekends we're close to 100%. So we're more or less fully recovered on the weekend, because we're running such good, frequent, and easy to use service. Now we just need the office stuff. It's all going to shake out. I'm still very bullish that, and you can see like where we are today compared to even the fall is different, in the fall compared to last spring. We're becoming kind of back to this figuring out normal. And whether you take the train to work, or you're taking it to a Caps game, or whether you're going, it doesn't really matter. We need to be there for all types of trips, not just a federal worker only. We need to think about holistically.
So special events, inaugurations, protests, 4th of July. How much extra work is that for the system?
Really big.
Yeah.
Really big. I mean, these are kind of our Super Bowls, for lack of better. So, and I'll tell you, 2025 is going to be a really big year here for Metro in the region. Okay. So, and that's why I'm very worried about our funding too, because if we make cuts, we're not a place that can make cuts and then turn the spigot back on.
Right.
I got people that work here that have to be very technically trained to get certified, and that takes months and months at that, and that's after you've recruited them. So if we have to do layoffs and then put people back, it's going to take years to rebuild. But let's assume you and your colleagues and a bunch of other people are going to help us, and we're going to solve that together. In 2025, we're going to have inauguration, which is gigantic normally, and I think we all know our country is not in the best spot. So there's a lot of security challenges, let alone the crowds. We are going to have cherry blossom, which is always our busiest time of year.
Okay.
And then in 2025, we're hosting World Pride.
For what? World Pride?
Yeah.
I did not know that. That's cool.
And that is basically Memorial Day for like 2 weeks. And that's been hosted in places like Rio and Toronto and all these big places around the world. And some places have had like over 1 million visitors. So we're talking more people than the Super Bowl over the course of like 10, 12 days.
Amazing.
So we are, we need to be those. So we're already actually doing work, prepping. Like we had an inauguration meeting, I think 2 weeks ago, and that's a year out. So like, just like this winter storm we managed today, we managed a winter storm on Tuesday.
Yep.
The First Amendment rights activities that have happened around the whole Israel-Palestinian question.
Yes.
We had about 500,000+ people on the system the day especially the day the Israel rally happened. We've had a lot.
I took the train.
Yeah. So obviously our job is to support anyone. We're not obviously into sides, but we are moving a lot of people, and we had to figure out how to do that within like 2 days notice.
Amazing.
And the team really performed well.
So speaking of the team, talk about recruitment, training, and retention. How are we doing? What sort of vacancy rate? You mentioned earlier, I think you said 12,000 people on your team. How are you doing on that?
So when I got here, we were incredibly short-staffed. COVID, we didn't hire for a while, lots of issues that way. We hired almost 1,500 people, I think it was last year. So our ranks are really built back. We're feeling really good. It's a very technical based stuff that we do. So we're really
some of it. There's also cleaning and maintenance, and I mean, not all of it is technical, right?
Well, I consider that incredibly. The maintenance stuff is actually the most technical.
Sorry, not the maintenance. Okay, but
no
keeping the stations clean and
So whatever position you have, though, you have some fire life safety responsibilities, some other safety. So so every position has a uniqueness, and so what we're really working on is a lot more. We're using simulators that we never used before. We're trying to get people on progressive training versus just check the box training.
Right.
Really developing skills that people could build careers versus jobs.
Nice.
So all that's going well. Again, not to be kind of the doom and gloom. The challenge we have is when we don't have certainty. So just last week, I implemented a hiring freeze because I don't have certainty about our budget. So the way it works here is every month we'll net lose about 50 operating employees. So what's going to happen is the longer that lasts, I won't be able, I'm not doing a bus training class this month. So if I go a couple months without that, time we get to March and April, we're going to start dropping trips, and the customers will see it on the street.
Sure.
And so all of this plays back into certainty, and we can't really have a workforce development program when you don't know how you're going to pay people the next year.
Yes.
So it all kind of goes together.
Yes. Union relations. Super quick. Any challenges, problems, successes?
No, good. I think a very good functioning relationship with you. They got a role to play. We have a role to play. I'll do President Obama term. We can disagree without ever being disagreeable, and I think that is a very mature way to go about it.
Perfect. Language access. We have visitors from around the world. We also have residents who live in the area who are from around the world and may not have English as their primary language. What are you doing to make Metro more language accessible?
Really cool story on that. So one, we're required when we do all of our public outreach to do all the required languages. We do a lot of that. We're definitely doing a lot more Spanish, but one of the things that we're doing that's, I think, using technology to change our culture is we now started a new pilot with our station managers using tablets. And on those tablets, we have translation tools specifically. Nice. I actually was at a station the other day watching a station manager interact with two people from a different country doing translation to help them figure out how to get to their hotel.
Perfect.
And so again, how to think about a culture of customer service. So you see, we are getting to the Apple Store. So that's the goal.
I love that. I love that. That's fantastic. Okay, so a couple of
By the way,
personal
you do
questions.
an amazing interview here. Yeah, I'm talking rocket fire questions. You're really,
I've got a lot of questions for you,
yeah,
and we don't have all day.
you're good.
I've got two personal questions before we get to the fast five. First, uh,
This was slow?
no, yeah, sorry.
Okay.
So I love that you don't drink coffee. I'm a ferocious tea drinker here. And you use a light lamp. I just want the world to know that we don't all live at Starbucks in a coffee culture. Anything you want to say about why you don't drink coffee?
I don't like the flavor. I've
That's
tried
the
this
right answer.
much, and I think it's like now I'll get all these tweets and everyone will hate me. But it's not a flavor I like. And I think like I'm kind of wired when I wake up, so
Yeah.
tea to me is actually more calming,
Yes.
and I like that. And I do have a wake up lamp because the
Yes, I
doom
saw
and
it.
gloom of like January is a little hard on the system.
Okay.
Yeah.
So community outreach is something you're really focused on and have been so effective at. Social media around Metro is just ferocious. And every time I say, had a great experience on the Metro, all the trolls come at me. And you have taken the alternative perspective, and rather than hiding behind WMATA, you've got your own Twitter account, your own X account, and you're out there and putting out the good word and being really transparent. Challenges? Do you feel like it's getting better? Or the trolls muting themselves a little bit?
Yeah. So, one, I thank you for recognizing the work I think of the team because one,
Yeah.
I think the team accounts are much more proactive. And one of the things I really want to bring here is transparency is good. You know, the old saying, sunlight's good for the soul. Like, so if we have an issue, guess what? People all have these phones on the train or bus. They know what's going on. So
Yeah.
let's lean into truth and fact. And I think you get a lot more credibility publicly. So I've acknowledged when we've had a couple of serious failures since I've been here, I just get on and say, here's what's going on. This was wrong. Here's what we're working on. And you show pictures and you video and everyone just,
Yeah.
because you're not hiding. We're all humans. We're just trying to do our best. No one woke up today and go, hey, I'm going to try to like make everyone's day horrible, right? We're all just trying their best. And so I think that has built, I think, good credibility. So then I'm also allowed to cheer on our team when they're successful because I believe I'm the chief advocate of 12,000 people coming in. But
Yes.
it only works if you're going to be honest with both sides. If you only
Totally.
cheer, and so I think the trolls, listen, most of the people that are critical of Metro actually love Metro and just want it to be great. Then there's a group of people that are not about Metro. They just wake up hating everything every day. So
Yes.
maybe we got to
Yes.
get them on T or something else. And those people I don't really honestly care about that much.
Yeah.
And because I don't want to live in the gutter. I made a decision in my life that I care more about trying to make the world better than live in negativity. And
Love
so
it.
honesty, I'll interact with, but I'm not going to go back and forth with someone that just basically, I hate government, I hate
Right.
this, I hate
Right.
this, and it's
Right.
just
Right.
like
Right.
you got other problems, and Twitter is a bad,
Yeah.
cesspool some days. So
That's
rise above, everybody.
yes. So I have to give a shout out to Charlie Scott, who
The
does your
best.
government relations. Charlie is fabulous. He is practically on speed dial,
Yeah,
but I call him with the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's
as you
like the
should. Yeah.
signage at New Carrollton during construction is terrible. And I had a phenomenal experience with this worker, with this employee who was so kind and so helpful. And so, yeah, we
Yeah,
got to do
and that's
both.
what we want. And then we get it fixed and we move on. And no, I kind of joke,
100%.
Charlie's like the mayor of Maryland. He
Sorry,
literally
say it again.
he's the mayor of Maryland. He
Love
literally
that.
knows everybody. Everyone knows him, and his
Yeah.
demeanor is great. And he really cares about, for lack of better, constituent service for the best way to describe it.
And he lives in District 17,
He
just saying.
does. Yeah, yeah.
The last thing before we go to Fast Five, you met your wife on a subway train on your way to a Red Sox game. Tell
I
me
do.
how that happened, how you
Yeah.
started, and why she didn't think you were some creeper stalker guy.
Well, one, I guess I didn't hopefully look like a creeper. But yeah, we were both living in Boston. This is before I worked at the NBTA.
Okay.
I worked actually doing some contract with federal USDOT. I guess it's still a little bit shivering.
Department of
Off of my
Transportation and the Massachusetts Bay
Bay
Transit Authority.
Transportation Authority. Yeah, so it's
Okay.
basically the metro of the Boston area.
Yes.
It actually goes all the way to Worcester. It's unlike what we've kind of broken everything apart here. It's one agency that does everything.
Yes.
Kind of honestly, it's a better model, but that's for a longer conversation.
Yes.
But I offered her my seat. She actually said no. We transferred trains. I saw her again. We went to a game. I saw her after the game. That's a lot of karma. And then as George Costanza and Seinfeld said, yada, yada, yada.
Aw,
Yeah. So, and now she, takes trains and buses with me all over the world. And, she obviously believes in the value of public transportation as well. But, yeah, kind of a cool story. And I never, ever thought I'd be in this business. And for a kid that grew up in Nova Scotia,
yes.
Canada, and running Metro, it's some days I'm still in awe that I have this amazing responsibility, and I'm just humbled by it.
Well, we are very lucky. Randy Clarke, General Manager and CEO of the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority, or Metro. It is time for your Fast Five. 5 quick questions, 5 quick answers.
Okay.
Question number 1. What do you believe is the best transit system in the world?
Probably tie between Tokyo and Hong Kong.
Okay. Question
And
2.
soon to be Metro.
There you go. Question number 2. When you were a child, what was your dream job?
Oh, I want to be a professional hockey player. I grew up in Canada. I was like, I
course.
want to be Wayne Gretzky.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
Question 3. What's the best advice you've ever gotten from a mentor?
Take risk.
Good one.
Yeah.
Question
Meaning that,
4.
don't be linear. It's not a straight path, and put a little risk at the table. And if you're willing to work hard, you never know what's going to happen.
Love it. Question 4. Tell us about a book or movie that has had a lasting impression on you.
If I'll give you one because of our world we're talking in right now. If you read, like, say, Power Broker, the Robert Moses kind of,
Okay.
and kind of in a lot of ways how he destroyed New York City and urban planning, and he's the guy that's responsible for massive highways all over America and really separated communities, a lot of stuff. He was arguably the most powerful person in the United States for about 20 years.
I
So
think Robert Moses also, though, created Shakespeare in the Park and some of that. I think he did some good stuff. Am I making that up?
he did a few good things,
Okay.
but he did some other things that were really bad.
Okay.
So there's a little balance there. I'll
Okay.
give him 25% good, 75% pretty
Yikes.
bad. But anyway, the book itself is about consolidation of power versus inclusivity, and more about that kind of stuff, and how if you really care about making a better society, all of us have to participate. That's the way I take that book.
Fascinating. I will check that out. The 5th question, the last question.
Okay.
Randy Clarke, General Manager of Metro. What is your hidden secret superpower? What is a skill or talent you have, something you're really good at that most folks can't do?
Well, that's a hard one, Senator, because quite frankly, I don't think I have any skill that's more important or better than anyone else. I will say one of the things I think I'm proud of is, and I think I would give credit to my parents, I believe I have a really high work ethic. And if I say I'm going to do something, I'm all in, and I will give everything I got to the mission. And so that's kind of, if you will, give it a crap versus a skill. And I think sometimes we think skill is really this thing that has to be unique and different. And the number one thing in life you could bring to anything is passion.
I love that. Well, you have been doing a great job. It is noted. People are excited about it. And we got to all be riding Metro and Metro bus more often because it's safe, it's easy, it's convenient, it's reliable, and it reduces traffic and pollution. So
It does. Yeah.
here's to that.
And thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for having me.
Thank you for kibitzing today. It was really a joy. Appreciate you. Take care.